take a quick look at the incident that happened in the life of Jesus on the day he was crucified. On that day, our Lord was being prepared to go to the cross. He had been apprehended and taken before Pilate. He had been beaten and abused, had gone through series of just shameful acts. People spat on him. They did all of that to him. And Pilate, after trying severally to dissuade the crowd from killing him or for asking for his death, couldn't do that and finally gave in and gave him up to the soldiers to take Jesus. And Jesus being led to Golgotha, they also called Calvary, which is a little mount outside of the city. As they proceeded to take him out of the city, Jesus had to carry his own cross. Jesus had to carry his own cross. And the beating on his body was so bad that Jesus, a man who was healthy, I'm sure was very healthy, the body that was accustomed to carrying the very glory of God, the very presence of God, divinity in its fullest, because Colossians says that the fullness of the Godhead dwelt in him bodily. That body that was used to carrying the very presence of God could not bear the weight of the cross, so much so that his limbs were shaking. Well, I assume it was shaking, and he couldn't carry the cross anymore. Somebody was needed to help him carry the cross. Well, that same morning where Jesus was being led out of the city, a man was walking into the city. We read from the book of Mark 15:21. It says, a certain man from Cyrene named Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. Somebody said they forced him to carry the cross. Simon was on his way to the temple, and he was forced to carry the cross. And I'm going to read real quick from McLaren's exposition. It says Simon was a Cyrenian, and that meant that he was possibly a Jew by descent, probably born and certainly resident for purposes of commerce in Cyrene, on the North African coast of the Mediterranean. No doubt he had come to Jerusalem for the Passover, and like very many of the strangers who flocked to the holy city for the feast, met some difficulty in finding accommodation in the city, and so was obliged to lodge in one of the outlying villages. From this lodging, it comes in the morning, knowing nothing about Christ, nor his trial, knowing nothing of what he was about to meet. And he happens to see the procession as it was passing out of the gate. He is by the centurion impressed to help the fainting Christ to carry the heavy cross. He probably thought, Jesus is a common criminal. Why should he help this man? And would have resented a task laid upon him by the rough authority of the officer in command. But he was gradually touched, and in some kind of sympathy, drew closer and closer, as we suppose, as he looked upon the dying meekness, and at last yielded to the soul-conquering power of Christ. And that story is interesting because if you look closely at that story, that same narrative in a different book, in Luke 23, verse 26 to 27, something jumps out to me in the text. Luke narrates it this way. It says, and as they led him away, they laid hold upon one Simon, a Cyrenian, coming out of the country, and on him they laid the cross, that he might bear it after Jesus. And there followed him a great multitude of people and of women who were mourning and lamenting for him. Now I look at that text right there and I see something interesting. I don't know if you all see it already. But there were women with Jesus. There were a bunch of them, not few. Now, I can understand the cross was probably very heavy that a woman couldn't carry it. But maybe a couple women could have carried it. Or maybe 3 women, maybe 4 women. Maybe Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, a couple of them could have done something to carry if they wanted to. They could have helped Jesus. But for some reason, the women didn't carry it. Now, I'm surprised that even the men that were part of the multitude, nobody carried the cross. Nobody was even asked to carry the cross. Nobody volunteered to carry the cross. Nobody was forced to carry the cross. Yet, there was a multitude of people walking with Jesus, some mourning, some shouting, kill him. Some crying, there goes our Lord. Some shouting, kill him. How is it that in all of that, nobody either volunteered or was made to carry the cross? Yet one man, just one man coming into the town, into the city, Simon the Cyrenian, just as he was stepping into the place right at the gate, it was forced to carry the cross. This makes me know that when God wants to use you for something, it doesn't matter how many people are available. It doesn't matter how many people want that position. It doesn't matter who is in charge. When God wants to use you for something, it will make you walk in at the right time. He is going to select you for the position, select you for what he wants to use you for. Your brother cannot fit your shoes. Nobody can wear the shoes that God has for you. Nobody can do your assignment. Your brother cannot, your father cannot, your mother cannot, not even your twin brother. Nobody can do what it is that God wants you to do. So Simon here, in the midst of all this multitude, walked in at the right time, and the soldiers impressed on him, imposed on him the need to carry the cross. Now, we need to note that Simon had somewhere he was going to. Simon was busy. Simon was going somewhere. It was going to where? The temple. It was going to the synagogue. It was going to do something really important. And guess what? Something really important for God. Simon had a destination in mind when he was stopped to carry the cross. Now, let's talk about some of the feelings that Simon could have been going through, or some of the things that Simon could have been thinking when he was forced to carry the cross. Maybe feelings of frustration. Yes, I would be frustrated if I left my country in North Africa and traveled all the way to Jerusalem, leave my house in the morning, trying to get to the synagogue to do my worship, whatever that is, and then you're stopping me to carry the cross. Of somebody that I didn't even know. I would be frustrated. This ain't my plan. This ain't what I'm about. I got my own business. I got my own agenda. I got something to do. Can I get on and do what it is that I want to do? But no, God wanted to reset Simon. Simon wanted to go to the temple to do God's own business, but God had another plan for him. So you could be feeling frustrated right now about what it is that is happening in your life. Well, maybe, just maybe, it is God's hand orchestrating a reset in your life. What could be another feeling Simon was going through? Maybe a feeling of loss of control. How can you take a man that was going somewhere and make him do something against his will? Make him carry a cross that was heavy. Make him do something that he didn't plan to do. Simon was probably dressed well. It wasn't dressed to carry the cross. It was dressed for the temple. You were making somebody who had an agenda, who was dressed for a mission, who had his attention on somewhere, do something that they didn't plan to do. It felt out of control. Do you feel out of control of the situations around you? The circumstance around you? This wasn't part of the plan. Well, maybe it is part of the reset. Maybe it's part of the reset. Simon could have also felt delayed. He was working hard. He was walking fast to get to the temple at the right time so that he could do his prayers. Yet somebody stopped him against his will, forcing him to carry the cross, which would have delayed his arrival time, because what? They were walking out of the city. So Simon carrying the cross out of the city meant that he would have to go out of the city and come back into the city, which meant that it was delayed. How many of you have felt delayed in your life and you are feeling what is going on around here? Whatever is happening wasn't part of the plan. This is taking me 2 months back. This is taking me 2 years back. This is taking me 10 years back. This is what it... How many of you have felt that delay? It could be part of the reset. What was Simon also thinking? Simon could also be thinking, this is rather unfortunate. Out of everybody there, out of all the people there, why me? Why must it be me? Why must it be me? Why should I be picked to carry the cross? What is wrong with me? Do I look? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? I'm sure somebody is saying, why me? I'm sure somebody is saying, why me? Why am I going through what I'm going through? There were thousands of people there. There were hundreds of people there. Simon was picked to carry the cross. And you must be thinking, why should I be the one who has to go through this, even in my family? Everybody's having a good time. Why does it have to be me who have to go through this situation? Why do I have to bear the cross for everybody else? It seemed at the time that Simon didn't have a connection to the cross, yet it was picked to carry the cross. And at that moment, he was carrying such a grueling, heavy load of the cross. Looking back, I'm sure he probably thought, why should I carry such a heavy piece? Why should it be me? But looking back now, I'm sure that Simon had an opportunity to reassess everything. He probably thought that this was the most honorable thing in his life that he could ever do. To be there with Jesus on the night he was slain. To be with him and to walk with him to carry the cross. And sometimes resets, this change of plans, these things that happen unexpectedly, sometimes they happen in the midst of misfortune. Sometimes they happen when we least expect it to happen. They happen when we're not expecting it. We have our own plan. We have our own agenda. I shared earlier on when I came to the U.S. how I came very excited and very enthusiastic about college. And I came for my master's degree, of course. And I came. I was an old man. Oh, I came for you. I got to fix it up. I came for you. But in coming for you, I had to also come for school. Well, dual purpose, you know. But you were the most important part of that trip, that decision. Cleaned it up real good. And then, you know, I came to grad school and I was paying out-of-state tuition. You guys know. Out of country. International fees. And after the first semester, I just couldn't afford it. It was around $12,000 for each semester. And I just couldn't afford it to go back to school. And then the next year after that was an interesting time of my life. I was depressed. Often, you know, I was like, I've always worked. I've always been somebody who worked. Never sat idle. Well, you can't work because you got no papers. You can't go to school right now, so you just sit at home. And I don't know anybody. So I don't have no friends apart from my family and the people. So it was the most terrible time of my life. I felt this was so bad. I felt this was frustrating. This is a delay. I'm already old. I felt old already coming back to school, and then now I have to sit out another year. I didn't even know what it would look like, and I was so excited because I was going to become a medical physicist. And by the pay calculation and everything, in a couple years I'll be cool. I'll be good, you know. And I was looking forward to the goal, to where I was going to, but God had His plans. I found myself after a year in the back roads of Texas, in Midland, Odessa. If any of you would know where that is, it's a desert area. You drive sometimes 45 minutes. I said 2 hours earlier on. I take that back. You drive 45 minutes on the highway. Sometimes you don't see any other car coming the other way. It's just sand. Not trees. Sand. So if you get off there, you burn. You burn like the heat. But that's where I worked. I worked in the oil fields in Texas. And I thank God for that opportunity. But all of that, there were moments in that time I would ask myself, what am I doing here in Texas? What am I doing in the middle of nowhere? I came to grad school, but I find myself in the middle of nowhere in Texas. What is going on here? But God had a plan. Today, I'm not a medical physicist, but God took me back to complete that degree. And I have that degree, and I can do whatever I want to do with it. I can have a business if I want to do with it. But God works in such a way that, hey, I am in His vineyard. I am working as a pastor and also a business owner. But God shifted me because I think if that journey was smooth, if that journey had led quickly to that degree, and if I started making 6 figures 2 years after I came to the U.S., I don't think I'll be here in front of y'all. But God has a way of doing things. God has a way of rerouting our lives. God has a way of resetting things. He has a way of ordering our steps. We started by saying a man plans his way, but God directs his step. Those are not just words that we say. The reality is that things happen in your life that shift your course, that make things shift around you. And then we'll go back to the exposition here by the McLaren's exposition, and we look a little closer as we try to trace what about Simon made him very interesting to God. The description of him in our text says he is the father of Alexander and Rufus. This shows that by the time Mark wrote the scriptures of Mark, the book of Mark, the two sons of Simon, Rufus and Alexander, were members of the Christian community. And they had attained some eminence in it. So they weren't just members, they were leaders in the church. Rufus is also mentioned in the salutations of Paul, the epistle to the Romans, as being elect in the Lord. And he said to him, eminent. And his mother is associated in the greeting and commended as having been motherly to Paul as well as to Rufus. Here we see in the book of Romans, Paul talking about Rufus's mother, who is probably the wife of Simon, calling her mother, speaking of how important she became in Paul's life and ends in the life of the early church. Again, Simon that morning going to the temple had no plan, had no foresight, had no reason to think that a few years down the line, his entire family would be playing a key role in the life of the church. But that is how God works. That is exactly how God works. Then there's also another possible evidence that this is the same Simon. This is the same Simon that's mentioned in the book of Acts and even in the book of Acts of the Apostles and in Mark. It says, in the list of the prophets and teachers in the church at Antioch, a Simon who is also named Niger or Niger. That is, meaning of Niger is black. The hot African sun, that's what it's referring to. Probably tanned him and it was called Niger. But this Niger is also called Simon. So maybe the Simon, who is also called Niger, is the father of Rufus and Alexander, who also carried the cross of Jesus. What a turnaround. What a turnaround. What a reset. What a reset. Interesting thing is when you are in the reset, you don't know that it's a reset. All you see is the cross, the frustration, the problems, the delay. But you don't know that God is moving you. It is shifting you into something bigger than yourself. God is intentional about every moment of your life. Every moment of your life, God is intentional about it. It may not look so in the moment, but God has plans for your life. I want you to say to yourself, God has plans for my life. Everything in your life, God orchestrates for his own good. Everything. Scripture says in the book of Romans 8:28, and we know that God works all things together for good for those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. All things work together for good. And I pondered on this story, Simon's story. And I figured, well, what did it take for Simon to be at the right place at the right time? Because Simon wasn't following Jesus all the way. Simon was coming from a different place. Simon could have spent a little longer in bed. Simon could have spent more time making breakfast. Simon could have spent longer time in the shower. Simon could have woken up earlier. He could have missed that opportune moment. But what so happened that Simon got to the right place at the right time so that he can encounter the cross of Christ before Christ went to the cross. It was because all things was working for his good. Scripture says all things work together. All things work together for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. If you are called according to God's purpose, trust me, all things are working for your good. They may not look good right now, but they are working for your good. They may look frustrating to you, but they are working for your good. It may be delaying. You may feel delayed. You may feel obstructed, but it is working for your good. Somebody may be pissing you off right now, making you mad. Somebody may be getting on your last nerve right now, but trust me, it is working for your good. You may have gotten disappointment. Maybe your jobs laid you off. Maybe your business ain't working that good, but it is working for your good. You may not see the picture right now, but something is brewing somewhere for your good. For your good. It is coming together for your good. Simon must have thought, carrying that cross. This cross is heavy. This cross is heavy. I'm just going to focus on this cross, and I'm just going to take it to where they want it to me to take it to, and I'm just going to leave. And so Simon made it about the cross. But God is never just about the cross. God never just thinks about the cross. God is always thinking about the deliverance that comes from the cross. He's always thinking about the blessing that results from the cross. And so while Simon was fixed upon that burden, the cross in front of him, God was thinking about the blessing that was about to hit Simon. About his household, about his generations unborn. God wanted to bless Simon in a way that he never knew or never thought about, as he seeks to bless you today. With those resets, those situations, those circumstances that happen in your life, and you're thinking this is tumultuous, this is unexpected, I'm just going to deal with this trouble. No. Right there in that trouble, God is thinking about your blessing that's on the other side of the trouble. Resets. Moment of resets are a time when God launches us into the new. And for some people, it could be a wilderness experience. It could be a diversion. It could be a delay. It could be at a crossroad. You see something unexpected. Unexpected detours, a diversion, whatever that is for you, it's an opportunity for you to be reset back into what it is that God is doing. Imagine Simon's generation, his children, Rufus and Alexander, mentioned in the scriptures. Simon's name mentioned everywhere Jesus' gospel is being preached. The preaching the gospel and the journey of Jesus going to the cross. Simon's name is mentioned. Rufus' name is mentioned. Alexander's name is mentioned. Your children's name will be mentioned because of the cross that you carry today. The troubles that you go through, the victories that you overcome today, the troubles that you overcome today, your children will reap the benefit for it. It is scriptural. You bear the cross. On the other side of the cross is blessing and enlargement. Simon put Africa on the map. I'm going to preach this one because I'm African. Simon put Africa on the map. Oftentimes when we think about Christianity and we think about Jesus, we feel like it is so divorced away from us. But there was nobody closer to Jesus. There was nobody closer to Jesus on the way to the cross than a man from Africa, a man from Northern Africa who bore the cross with him as Jesus went to the cross. There was no European there. There was no Chinese there. There wasn't anybody else but an African. It was an African who bare the cross for him. He was somebody like you, like me, whose skin is tanned, who had to help him carry the cross on the way to Golgotha, on the way to Calvary. Somebody say, I got a plan. I am part of God's plan. I have a part in God's plan. Don't let nobody tell you, oh, Africans ain't got nothing to do with whatever. It's a European whatever. Oh, no. The person who bore the cross for Jesus was somebody from Northern Africa. He drank the water of Africa. But isn't it interesting how God redirects everything? One moment of encounter can change your life. Just one moment. Just an instant. An encounter with the cross can change your life. And I know that as believers, this is where sometimes we get it twisted. We get it mixed up. We get focused on what it is that God has told us to do, which is honorable, which is beautiful. And Simon could have said, I am going to the temple, and then nobody forcing me to carry no cross. Simon could have said, I am not in the business of carrying crosses. I am in the business of serving my God. You all see what happened right there? Simon could have said, I want to go and do what it is that I came here to do. My business is to go to church, not to carry crosses. Simon could have said, God told me, I got a dream, I got a prophetic word, I have an assignment, I am a pastor, a prophet, I have somewhere to go to prophesy. I am not about to carry no cross. Simon could have given any excuse, but carry the cross. Find it interesting because it was about God's business. It was going to the temple. How flexible are you to the voice of God? Let me tell you this. Let me help you. Let me bring scriptural reference to this. If Abraham wasn't listening to the voice of God, Abraham would have killed Isaac. But why would Abraham have killed Isaac? Why could he have killed Isaac? God told him to. You all didn't get that. God told him what? Take your son, your very son that I gave you, and go to the place that I will show you, and give him off as a sacrifice to me. That's God's voice. Abraham was enthusiastic about it. He didn't understand it, but he went. And that's why you got to be led by the Spirit of God. It is not enough to say, I am a child of God. You got to be led by the Spirit of God daily. Because Abraham getting to the mount had tied up Isaac. If Abraham did not listen to the voice of God, if Abraham went with what God told him to do, he would have killed Isaac. And don't tell me the voice of God was so loud Abraham couldn't miss it. The voice of God is loud and we still miss it. Don't tell me it was because there was a ram Abraham didn't miss it. Oh no, there's been ram in the bush and we still miss it. Because we get stuck on what God told us to do. But God is always telling us what to do. God's voice is like the GPS. It tells you when you leave the home, go 3 miles down the road. And then you got to wait for the voice that tells you, take right or take left. Take the exit or keep going. But sometimes we are 3 miles and all we want to do is keep going 3 miles. The voice of God says, no, rerouting. Take the next exit. Turn back and drive 3 miles back the way you came so you can get the directions. But this is what it means to be reset. Because as well as you plan your life out, God still reserves the right to change up things. God reserves the right to redirect you, to change plans on you. Because God gave you an idea doesn't mean He can't change it up. Because God gave you an idea today doesn't mean He can't give you another idea tomorrow. Because God told you to go someplace today doesn't mean He cannot tell you to stop going there tomorrow. He continues to be God. And some of you are thinking, well, good for me. There ain't no cross for me to carry. Simon already carried the cross. Oh no, there may not be literal crosses for us today, but there's still crosses for us to carry. There's still spiritual crosses for us to carry. Each one of us must carry our cross. And Jesus says it in the book of Matthew 16:24. He insists if anyone has the plan to follow him, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow him. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires, it's not by force, I ain't forcing you. If this is what you want, don't say nobody make you do anything for serve God. Nobody's forcing you. All we're doing is creating organizations. We're creating systems where people can find it. Nobody's forcing you to do nothing. Nobody's forcing me to preach. Nobody's forcing you to do nothing. But if you desire to come after him, to be a believer, to be a Christian, simple 3 steps. Deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me. I've never seen a formula so simple. But we still make it complex. The rich young ruler went to Jesus and told him, what must I do to be saved? Jesus told him, go do what you do, law, everything. He said, I've done that. I've always do that. I've done that. I'm good. Jesus looked at him, and scripture says Jesus liked him. Jesus loved him. You know how you look at somebody and you're just like, I just like you. Like, there's something about you. So I'm going to make it easy for you. You guys have never been in that situation? Favor, right? But this kind of favor sometimes will pinch you. You go meet somebody and you know what they'll tell you. You don't have to fill the forms. You don't have to do all of that. That's just something about you. Just come in the room. I like you. Just come in. Stay next. The rest can be out there. You just come in. And Jesus was helping this young ruler, but he didn't know that. Jesus says, you know what? I like you, but I'm gonna make it very simple for you. Go sell all you have. Very simple, right? I know, right? So simple. Lord, help me. Go sell all you got. Give it to the poor. Come follow me. Pick up your cross and follow me. The rich young ruler looked and says, whoa. That's a hard thing to do. Yet, it was simple. It is simple. Following Jesus is simple. It's not as tough as we make it look. The problem is we don't want to deny ourselves. Nobody want to die to self. I'm not completely dead, y'all. I'm praying, Lord, help me die. Help me die to self. If you want to follow me, deny yourself. Pick up your cross and follow me. And I find it interesting that this directive, this instruction, this word is given in the book of Matthew 10:38, Matthew 16:24, Mark 8:24, Luke 14:27. Why is Jesus telling people to do this repetitively? Or why do the apostles capture this one instruction of Jesus so many times? All of the Gospels have it except John. Why? Because it is critical for you, if you claim to be a child of God, to learn how to pick up your cross, to learn how to deny yourself, and to follow him. And the truth about picking up the cross sometimes or denying yourself isn't always suffering, although suffering could be part of it. But sometimes it's just the way you do things. Sometimes we get so stuck on what it is that we are doing that when God tries to shift us, we cannot deny our methods. We cannot forsake our methodologies, our formulas. We cannot forsake, we get so connected emotionally to what we are doing that we cannot give it up. I've always done it this way. And Jesus is saying, deny yourself. Give that up for the new. Give that method up for a new method. Give that formula up for a new formula. If anyone wants to be in Christ, they must be ready for redirections. They must be ready for resets. They must be ready for relaunch. They must be ready. They must be flexible. Flexible. That's what we lack. You must also be ready for discomfort. Discomfort. Ain't nobody do anything for God without being discomforted or uncomfortable. So you want to follow Jesus, make up your mind that you will be rerouted often, be reset often. You may feel discomfort. You may feel delay. You may be frustrated at times. But pick up your cross and follow him. Simon encountered Jesus in one moment. Just one encounter. The right timing with God. I think the biggest thing about the cross that we're looking at in the life of Simon, and even in our lives, is just the unpredictability of the cross. It's the fact that you don't know when things would happen. And for us as a church, we had great plans and we have great plans, and there's so much God is doing. But something happened last year, and we're going to share with you guys later after service. That wasn't part of the plan. A curveball. It wasn't part of the agenda. And when it happened, we had to reset. You got to understand that every time God calls you to do something out of the norm, it's inviting you into something greater than yourself. So Simon was called to carry the cross. Imagine a mere mortal helping the King of Kings carry his cross. I want you to know that Jesus could have handled that cross supernaturally. He could have invoked angels to lift the cross from wherever to wherever. It wasn't a problem for him. Yet he needed a man to carry the cross. It's interesting that God doesn't need anything from us, yet he asks something from us. It was telling the nation of Israel when they got it into their head that God was just interested in their sacrifices. He said, I don't care about your sacrifices. The cattle on the 1,000 hills belong to me. Sometimes you may think God wants my money. God doesn't want your money. The whole world belongs to him, including you. So when God invites you into something bigger than yourself, it's an opportunity for you to come into a blessing. Don't want us to ever get so caught up in what we're doing for God that we feel like we're so important. Oh no, God just wants to bless you. He just wants to bless the generations after you. He just wants to put your name in a storyline. He just wants you to encounter the cross. So when moments of reset comes, sometimes, often, God is calling us to help him. But not because he needs our help, but because he wants to invite us into something bigger than ourselves. And the cross may look like giving up something. It may look like giving up your comfort, giving up your agenda, giving up your journey, giving up whatever it is that you planned to do. Like I said, I gave up medical physics for pastoring and business. Well, first IT. I'm very stubborn, y'all. I'm very stubborn. So I still went back to work and all of that, and went into IT, did that for a few years, and then God is like, nope, I'm going to reset you again. And if you keep doing that, I'm going to keep resetting you. Nope. Start again. Nope. Start again. So after the second time, I learned my lesson. My God, I give up. But the interesting thing is, God is not always trying to take something away from us that is not willing to give us back. You guys didn't get it. God is not willing to take something from us that is not willing to give us back. Matthew 19:29 says, and everyone who has given up houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or children or property or comfort, you can keep going on, for my name's sake, will receive 100 times as much in return, and then will inherit eternal life. Everyone who has sacrificed that much to God, you would reap 100 times back. I don't think Simon thought that his name would echo through history for carrying a cross. I don't think it thought that his children, his sons, Rufus and Alexander, his wife, will be instrumental in sustaining the church or being part of the Roman church just because he carried the cross. What a blessing that he received, way bigger than what he gave up. It's always bigger than what you give up. So God is inviting us to give up something. Our comfort, our way of life, something that we do, you know, the way we do things. I want you guys to take this comfort. The fact that if God is asking me to give something, He's always ready to give me more than He's asking from me. Join me on your feet as we rise to our feet. So, I feel like there's some of us that are struggling with what it is that God has asked us to do. And it could be as simple as going back to your spouse. It could be as simple as just loving them back. It could be as simple as just going back and apologizing to your families. It could be that simple. It could be as simple as picking up a role in the church. It could be as simple as adopting a child. It could be anything that it is that God is asking you to. There is a moment at the cross. It's a reset. It's a relaunch. It could look like a diversion, but it is actually an acceleration to where it is that God wants you to go. And I just want you to just say this prayer. I'm not going to pray over you guys. And the prayer is just to pray the word of Jesus. Lord, help me deny myself. Help me pick up my cross. And help me follow you. Say that in your word. Pray that in your own words. Look over your life and see places where you feel like you are not yielding to the leading of the Holy Spirit. Places where you are still resistant to change, resistant to the move of God. Places where you have not said yes completely. And God is trying to change your course, trying to bring you back into alignment, trying to focus you back on the new thing that He wants to do in your life. Just keep praying. God, help me, God. Help me deny myself. Help me deny my own thoughts. Help me deny my own agenda, Lord. Help me pick up my cross and help me follow you. Help me say yes to you. Help me say yes to your agenda. Help me say yes to your plan. Help me say yes to your will. Help me say yes to you, Jesus.